Hey everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Wednesday.
Hello. Well, yeah, let's do the intro music.
SGU TikTok stream on Wednesday.
That's right. Welcome to August 28th, Wednesday.
Wow.
It's that time again.
The summer is fading.
Although it's hot today, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty hot. It's going to be hot in the next couple of days. Everybody in the chat, welcome in. We got a couple things. Let's just look through the topics so I can shut off the music so people don't write to me and say shut off the music when they're talking. What the Zuck we're going to be talking about today. UFOs, bears, bird lover or no, which I didn't tell them about, so we'll see if they are a bird lover or no.
I think we know the answer to that.
And then TikToks. And now I can shut off the music. Don't comment that you don't like music under them talking. And here we are.
So someone in the chat's talking about the strawberry Kit Kats. Remember those from?
Yeah.
I tried
Chicago.
one.
They're all right.
They were all right. I mean, they weren't worth the
it's that
calories.
fake
but
strawberry taste
Yeah.
that's in everything. Strawberry candy.
Olivia is home.
It took her that long to get back?
How was your New York experience, Olivia?
What does the green on your name in chat mean? It means you're a mod, I think.
A mod.
A mod.
Mm-hmm.
A mod.
And we got Sharon in the house.
Sharon, hello.
Yeah, guys, it's funny. It seems like the event happened now. It seems like it was months ago to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how time works that way.
That's why I was apologizing about that.
Yeah, don't worry about those Kit Kats. I mean, you live and learn, right? Who knew? You
They
gotta try
weren't
'em.
bad. They were what they were. They were
They were
Kit
fine.
Kats.
I'm just saying that when it comes to
What
candy,
was your problem with them?
when it comes to candy, like I quickly evaluate if I consider them worth the calories, and I just
Yeah.
didn't think they were compared to the chocolate that
That's
Olivia
different.
gave us. Wait,
Oh my
but
God.
pay attention because this is
Well, you
important.
can't compare it to Swiss chocolate.
But that was in play. If I'm going to eat and there's Swiss chocolate
not
in the
fair.
room, well, that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Nobody would try the takoyaki balls that I got.
No way. I didn't even want to look at the
He
bag.
didn't even want to look at the bag. They're not even actually octopus or whatever. It's octopus fakeness.
So what's the what the
good.
Zuck?
Okay, so what the Zuck?
What
Let's
the
get to
Zuck?
since we're right at the beginning, and we're gonna do. Wait, where is that video?
Yeah, the 2000 show. That'll be in about 20 years.
20.
We're going to be super old.
Super old. Too late. Oh, that's a different one. So what the Zuck
Ha ha,
is?
Sharon. Ha
Boom.
ha, Sharon.
So did you guys see that Zuckerberg
saw
says
that.
White House pressured
yeah.
Facebook over some COVID-19 content? And
Mhm.
not in a way maybe that you would like be like, well, maybe is he on the right side of history? No, he's on the wrong side of it. Let's watch this video.
Looks like Jack Smith doing more what he does, which is
What is
filing.
this? JD Vance. I don't want to hear him. Shut up. Wait, why is this has nothing to do with that?
No, it doesn't seem to.
Okay,
Feels
whatever.
entire-
So that's just a bunch of nonsense. So anyway, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg says senior Biden administration officials pressured Facebook to censor some COVID-19 content during the pandemic and vowed that the social media giant would push back if it faced such demands again, specifically about misinformation.
Yeah, it was about harmful misinformation that was killing people.
Right.
You know, my big summary on this is Zuckerberg is a dick.
Mhm.
That's basically what it boils down to. Hey, yeah, you have a social media platform that's reaching about 4 billion people, and the government asked you to not let shit on your platform that's incorrect and potentially hazardous to people's health, and he was pushing back.
Mhm.
As if, are you not making enough money? Do you not have enough power, dude? Is that what you're really crying about?
Well, I mean, or can you give us a specific example of something you were pressured to take down that in retrospect was actually not misinformation? Or was it all, yeah, it was misinformation, we just don't believe in removing harmful disinformation from our platform because that's censorship? What's his position?
I mean, I think what mostly he said, he didn't give a specific example, of course, because that would probably get, chewed up.
Well, you can't have a discussion without specific examples.
Right. But I think some of the stuff he was saying was about like the lab leak theory. That's what they've said. But that could have been just the media, like adding that onto it. But, that is like a conservative trope that is, who seems like Zuck might be on that, which of course, billionaire, whatever. But like that hypothesis was derided back in the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, and now
And
it's
still
like,
is.
and still is, but like quote unquote, it's maybe more. It's like, it's all just special pleading kind of stuff. So it's
So the quickie on the lab leak. So you have to go back to the early days
Let's
of
take it back.
2020
Take
when the original misinformation that was put out there was that the COVID-19 virus, the SARS-CoV-2, was engineered in a lab. That it was
by Fauci.
that it was bioengineered. And that was sort of rapidly disproven just by examining the genetics of the virus itself. So it was quickly basically disproven, as a scientific hypothesis. No, it was not engineered. This virus was not made in a lab.
Yep.
And that was that's what was pushed back against. That was the type, one of the types of information that was really derided and made fun of and said this is misinformation and whatever. Then 6 months later, like after that happened, you started to read about, okay, well maybe it wasn't made in the lab, but it leaked from a lab. So it still is a naturally occurring virus, but it just was an accidental lab leak. So that's a very different hypothesis. It's also much harder to disprove, right? Because you can't disprove it by looking at the virus itself. You need to look at a couple of completely different lines of evidence, right? One is epidemiologically, what were the first cases and, where did they come from? You could also find the smoking gun source of the virus, right? Either way. You can also do like just more intelligence gathering in terms of did China cover up a lab leak, right? So the intelligence agencies have basically said China's being very squirrely. They're not being forthcoming with transparent information. We don't trust them. That's basically their position. They don't have any evidence for a cover-up or a lab leak or anything. They just don't trust the Chinese. The epidemiologists, physicians looking at the epidemiology of the virus saying it came from the wet lab. That's where the first cluster is from. There's no evidence that it came from a lab leak. A zoonotic, spillover somehow associated with the Wuhan, wet market is the most likely explanation. Again, there's no smoking gun proof here. That's just the most likely explanation given all of the epidemiological evidence. In terms of the smoking gun origin of the virus, we haven't found that for either hypothesis, for a lab leak or for what animal did it come from. We don't always find that. You need to have the right evidence in order to prove that. We don't have it. So, yeah, you can argue now about whether it leaked from the Wuhan lab or it emerged from the Wuhan market. But the scientific consensus is it's more likely than not that it was the wet market and not the lab. That's where we are right now. That has never been suppressed. That whole discussion I just had has been playing out not only on social media, but in the scientific literature and in discussions over the last 4 years. It's never been suppressed. The only thing that was pushed back against as pseudoscience was that this is a manufactured virus, which was often linked to the claim that it was deliberately released. Of course, it wasn't manufactured, so that undercuts that whole claim. That's it. Don't confuse those two things.
I won't, I promise.
Yeah, don't do that, Jay. Stop it.
Stop it. Yeah, so all this comes from a letter that he sent also, Zuck, to Jim Jordan. So I think it's part of like an ongoing investigation of Meta in general. But he's pushing back about, we took down COVID-19 content, including humor and satire.
Yeah.
And so that was wrong.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
what-
All right, so somebody asked, what's the gain of function crap? I'll give you the quickie on that too. So gain of function refers to any mutation in an infectious organism that makes it more infectious or deadly. Basically makes it a worse virus or a worse bacteria in terms of causing human disease, right? So there is gain of function research where you deliberately cause genetic changes, say in a virus, for example, to make it more infectious, to see what happens, or so that you have the virus in the lab to test how to prevent its spread or to treat infections or whatever, right? It's like we want a really infectious strain of the virus to study to make a vaccine against it or to figure out how it spreads, whatever.
Is this typical, Steve?
No, this is that kind of research has basically been banned around the world. Like deliberately creating gain of function doesn't happen, right? So that's at least not in anything connected to the United States or any Western country or whatever. I can't promise you that's not happening somewhere around the world that we don't have control over. But there's no sanctioned, gain of function research happening. However, gain of function can also refer to inadvertent mutations that happen in the course of research or keeping a strain of a virus or whatever that's not intended, but that just happens as a side effect of whatever you're doing, right? So the viral research that was being partially funded by the NIH, by the office in the NIH that Fauci was running, right? So Fauci had nothing really directly to do this. It was basically his part of the NIH, the infectious disease, part, gave I don't know what it was, $25,000, $200,000. It was some small amount of money which funded 5% of this research program that some other country was doing, that part of which was happening in the Wuhan lab, right? It's a really tenuous connection to Fauci, extremely tenuous. But that research, so not only can you not do gain of function research, you have to monitor any strains of virus you have in a lab to detect any inadvertent gain of function. And so what they're talking about was that one study that I'm talking about with that very tenuous connection, to the NIH and to Fauci, that they did publish a paper showing that there was a really mild inadvertent gain of function in one particular aspect of it. And that was it. They reported it. It was not enough at the time to trigger shutting down the study or doing anything about it. It was just like, oh yeah, we're looking at all these parameters. Just one parameter increased by 10% or something. You know what I mean? It was technically a gain of function. But it's so ridiculous. It's so tenuous. You really have to be going out of your way with motivated reasoning and intellectual dishonesty to make this into something. It wasn't gain of function research. It was really completely incidental. It was very minor. It had nothing to do with the actual research that was being done. It was reported transparently, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's a complete massive nothing burger.
Yeah, and it's par for the course today. This type of maximum spin to make everybody look bad, so one or few people could look like they're the ones that have the answers.
Yeah,
or know what's really going on.
They're just trying to they're trying to gin up a scandal.
Yeah,
right. That's what it is.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have the education to see through it. And they read it on Facebook or wherever, and then the next thing you know, that's what happened to them.
Fauci was funding gain of function research in Wuhan. No, he wasn't. It's a complete distortion of reality. But that's the narrative on the right with that.
What else you got, Ian?
So we have, I don't know, you've seen a bear in Connecticut, right? I think you have.
We just had a sighting 2 days ago.
Oh.
Where, Steve?
Here.
In your yard?
It wasn't in my yard. It was in a neighbor's yard. It was a black bear, pretty big one, making the rounds. Got into somebody's garbage, was tearing apart a garbage bag.
I had a bear do that to me 3 days ago.
Could
of course,
it have been this bear, maybe? Is this your neighbor?
Where
is
this?
it?
It's in Connecticut.
Check him out.
So
He's just like,
He's just chilling.
First off, I want to show you the son right here. Bear. He goes, bear, and runs inside.
Leaves his siblings behind.
Yeah, bye.
His younger
And the
siblings.
parents are there.
They're like holy shit.
Or maybe not parents, maybe.
You know what? That just makes
Caretakers.
me laugh. Is that bear didn't even turn his head.
Yeah.
He is walking very slowly. Like to him, he's just like,
hanging out.
what are they going to do about it?
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
like, whatever. I'm not hurting you, but I will eat your garbage.
They're bulking up, before the winter.
Yep.
So they're definitely on the prowl.
It's like, okay, guys.
So
that wasn't it, but there's thousands and thousands
Right,
of bears in
of course.
Connecticut.
my
obviously.
wife and son went for a walk, right, 2 houses away from
stinks.
our house, and there was
Yeah.
a bear there, and he did that thing. He just kind of walked out of the woods.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh my God, you got, black bears, just get away from them.
Yeah,
Leave them alone. If you see
they'll leave you alone.
If you see
They're not
baby
interested.
bears,
then worry.
then do what you can to get away as quickly as possible.
And if they have food, leave them alone.
leave them alone.
Don't take their food away.
Yeah.
So I must have said this, but I saw this video. Some guy had a security camera in his driveway.
Yeah,
And it was like, I guess he had like the camera at where his garage was. So you can see the bear coming this way to the corner, and you see him coming this way to the corner. I mean, you couldn't fake this because they meet right at the corner, and they both physically had the same exact reaction to each other.
Like
they both went whoa 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 like to get away. And the bear took off, and the guy took off, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, yeah, they don't want to deal with us, just like we don't want to deal with them. You know what I mean?
yeah. We often know about the bears because my dog goes crazy. If he hears them, smells them, sees them, whatever, he patrols the yard. Like he'll start barking his head off at one corner of the woods or whatever. Bears don't want to mess with that. He's basically a small wolf.
Yeah.
They don't want. I mean, even if they win, they could get injured and die from an infected wound or something. Like it's the ROI is not there for the bear, right? It's not worth the risk. So they just will, a predator, a fellow predator. They just go on. They want garbage. They want easy food sitting in piles that they could.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Delicious garbage.
Jay, I found it, by the way.
Yeah, oh, here it is. Check it out. Check this out. That's not the one that I saw. Is that a brown bear? Wait a second.
No. Is it a brown bear?
I don't know, but
That's
it's small.
But that was the same reaction, except a little bit more exaggerated.
That's a baby bear either way.
But again, like that bear isn't on the attack, right? He's like, oh, I'm out of here.
Yo, what the?
Yeah. Plus, this camera's moving, and the camera I
was
saw
a
was
security.
still.
Static. It was,
Yeah, it was a static.
So I guess
camera.
it happens commonly.
But hey, I saw a video of a brown bear.
Proud of you.
The guy had a security camera in his kitchen.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and a brown bear just knocks
the door
in.
down.
And you see the door opens and it pushes back again, like it bounces back, and the bear just pushed it forward again with his paw again, and then came right in the guy's house. So if a brown bear gets hungry enough, they will enter your, domicile.
Domicile. What kind of dogs do you have? They're
I
mutts,
have-
aren't they?
I
Or
have
this
a
is
black lab healer mutt, and
I have an Australian Shepherd.
Yeah, and our two dogs
We got them about the same time.
are the super friends. They
Yeah, they're best
absolutely
friends.
love each other. They grew up together. They were puppies together. Steve's dog is rambunctious, and he's funny as shit. My dog is super chill, but when they're together, they turn into a Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like
Collectively, yeah.
like going ape shit.
So actually, that's a good segue because the next topic maybe is bird lover or no.
Yes.
So let's see. As you mentioned, Australia. Familiar with it? Okay. So they got some weird things down
Yeah.
there.
Oh, they got a lot of weird things.
And they've
down
had
there.
some weird things in prehistory.
Yes.
So let's see if you would say yes or no to this beast.
Tall, weighed about half a
hold on,
ton,
let me go
and
back.
this is the demon duck of doom, also
Demon
known as
duck
the
of doom.
thunderbird. These guys were about 3 meters tall, weighed about half a ton, and unfortunately they went extinct about 30,000 years ago. So people think Australia's scary now. It ain't nothing on what it used to be.
That bird would be able to snap your head off with that.
Extinct about 30.
So well, there's actually some debate about whether or not they're herbivorous, whatever, omnivorous, herbivorous. Sorry, yeah, that's correct. Omnivorous, omnivorous, or if they were like, what's the one that, whatever, like
Carnivore?
they find it. No, it wasn't carnivore, but it was
Omnivore?
like it was like I guess omnivore, but like they would. Like turtles, they're scavengers to a degree,
Yeah.
or whatever they can find, they'll eat.
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic, that's the word. So apparently they went extinct because humans came to Australia
Yeah.
and they ate the heck out of them, or
Yeah,
at
'cause
least
they're
drove
big
them off.
giant turkeys.
Big giant chicken wings.
Same thing on New Zealand and the Moa.
Right. That's true.
Interesting though, Ian. Like it doesn't have even like tiny little wings or anything. unless
Oh, it
they're
does
down.
have actually that little brown part or black part down there are wings.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
another image
Super
of
small.
them with like
They're
little.
vestigial.
There
Oh,
it
there
is,
you go.
Vestigial little itty bitty wings.
Useless as hell.
But they
Yeah.
were around like, apparently 15 million years to about 30,000 years. So it's like,
Do we
can
ha-
we get some DNA?
Do we have it? Do
bring
we
them
have
back?
the genetic material?
Can we bring them back?
Yeah.
My mom cited. Oh wait, hold on. We gotta. Thank you for the super chat. My mom cited a recent 5G concern that the NIH was suppressing research showing that it's carcinogenic. Can you talk about dealing with that? I think we've done a video about
Yeah.
that on YouTube. Maybe I can find it and link it to you.
If
So
it
first
were-
of all, the NIH isn't suppressing research.
No,
I mean,
and
that's
if it
just
were
ridiculous.
carcinogenic, everybody would know about it
That's
because
true.
it's everywhere, and so many people would be getting cancer. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's non-ionizing radiation. There really isn't any good theory for how non-ionizing radiation would cause cancer. It may slightly heat up the tissue, like by half a degree or a degree or something. So, but epidemiologically, no one's been able to document any risk. Of course, the thing is, like, they said the same thing about 3G, and then when we showed that wasn't a risk, but that's just it takes years to do that research and to gather the epidemiology. By the time we really prove it's no risk, then 5G is coming out. They say,
yeah.
well, it's the 5G.
Oh yeah. Wait till 6G comes out.
yeah.
666G.
Yeah.
So are we pro this bird or anti this bird?
I'm pro the bird.
You pro
I like
bird?
him.
I like
He's
birds.
cool.
It's pretty cool. The Aussies did lose a war against the emus, if you're familiar with that history, which would be, we need an Australian to come and talk to us about
I
that.
have plenty of people that
There's a lot
live in
of
Australia
questions.
that'd be happy to talk to us.
That would be pretty fun.
My buddy
actually.
Iran is it was always game.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So anyway, that was some prehistory news. We do have...
They're asleep right now. in
Yeah, that's
Australia.
true. They are asleep. So we have some other topics. I mean, basically, we could go into the TikTok, or we could go on to UFOs.
Let's do the UFOs one, and then
okay,
we'll do the
we'll do
TikToks.
UFOs.
So we're gonna
Australia's
do this
scary
as a
now.
YouTube
It ain't
video,
nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be a formal
A Q&A.
video.
Yeah, so I will turn this segment that we do right now into a YouTube video.
Let me change the background.
There it is.
There you go.
All right,
There it
let's
is.
let's,
So
let's
make
set
sure
ourselves
this looks
up. for
good. That
good
looks
stuff.
good. Boom.
Wait, go to me again.
Are you zoomed in too much? Should I zoom you out?
Are you ready for your close-up? Ken?
Yeah. Mr.
Wait, hold on.
DeMille.
Let me see if I wait. I gotta go this
Oh,
way.
oh, wait, oh,
Right, that's
and
probably
then you
better.
can clean up the desk to your right.
Yeah.
We're going to do a formal YouTube video. Background change complete with sound effects. Yeah, I know. Those were real. I was doing Foley.
Foley. Okay, ready?
Foley. That's what I said.
I'm gonna start. You ready,
Yeah,
Ian?
Okay. All right. So hold on. Actually, let me stop and start the recording.
wait
That
for
way we
Ian.
get a
Wait.
fresh one.
Jesus.
Jesus. Hold on. This one does not allow me to stop.
So, Steve, how are you enjoying the sword? Do you just pull it out sometimes? Like, do you pretend like you're fighting ninjas and shit?
Occasionally.
Occasionally. Watch out, Jocelyn. Zoom. All right.
I don't make the noises.
Oh, zoom, zoom, zoom. Yeah.
Only those for when I'm playing with my lightsaber.
Yeah, lightsabers are totally different.
That's fair. All right. Here we go. And we're rolling.
Hold on, I'm yawning. So my daughter sometimes comes into bed with me and my wife in the middle of the night. And when you sleep with an 8-year-old, you get physically abused.
Mm-hmm.
You get punched, kicked, everything. And so she kept me up all last night. All right, anyway, here we go, Steve. Steve, are you aware that UFOs have been visiting our country, the world, for decades? They've been watching us. You can't prove they haven't, and I don't want to hear it. You can't prove that they haven't been here.
Well, let me explain to you why I am still skeptical.
You are skeptical
Yes.
of what about all the evidence? They've
That-
taken the anuses out of sheep and cattle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been documented.
So
This guy out in Mississippi said,
Yeah.
I saw it.
Some guy?
He saw it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there definitely are UFOs.
Absolutely.
Right. In that there are things that people see in the sky that they can't identify.
An unidentified flying object could
Right.
be anything, and it's likely terrestrial, correct?
Well, we could ask that as a scientific question. It's like, what are these things, and what are they likely to represent? So we're asking what things are that we can't identify.
Right.
Right. And now that I know that there are UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, but basically everyone knows them as UFOs.
Yeah.
So but I'll tell you, having followed this evidence for 40 years at least,
Yeah, that's a long time.
more than 40 years, I remain incredibly skeptical and increasingly skeptical that they represent alien visitations. I don't think aliens are visiting the Earth. I don't think the UFO phenomenon, I do not believe, is an alien phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. So we could say a couple of things about it. Right. One is there smoking gun physical, real proof of alien activity?
Well,
right?
I heard that the secret base, Area 52, is that it?
51.
51? Well, no, they have 52 now. It's
Oh,
even
yeah.
more secret. So Area 51, remember when we were kids, they would be
Yeah.
talking about this metal, you can crinkle it up and it goes back into the position that it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And then they have the alien autopsy bodies and all that stuff. The bottom line is, if aliens were, this is what I believe, if aliens were visiting the Earth, then I don't think we would be able to detect them. And if
they did not want us to detect them, we probably wouldn't be.
right, because the technology that they would need to traverse, the solar,
The
galaxies
galaxy,
and
light years to get here. You would
seem-
have to hypothesize pretty advanced technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they were here, and they've been here, I can't figure out why they would be doing it other than just to simply observe us.
Mm-hmm.
And why would they need to be flying their ships ramshackle all through our atmosphere, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make sense of the phenomenon, but
Yeah.
but let's not even, we don't even have to go there, right? We could say that, after decades of the modern UFO phenomenon, since basically the 1940s, 80 years now, we don't have a single piece of evidence,
Yeah.
right? That is confirmed. Everyone agrees. Scientists look at it and go, yeah, that's an alien thing. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist.
Yep.
There isn't one unambiguous video that hasn't been debunked as a fraud, right?
And you can't say too, like as far as government cover-ups go and all that stuff. I don't think that this could be kept secret, right?
So once we agree that there isn't smoking gun evidence,
yeah,
then the question is, so what's the best inference that we can make from the evidence that we do have,
Right.
So one approach, say, well, we don't have evidence because there's a government conspiracy to cover it up,
Right.
That's a conspiracy theory. See our other video on conspiracy theories to explain why that's not compelling evidence.
Would you think the government would cover it up though?
No.
Let's say that
No.
they found an alien
for
spacecraft.
for 80 years.
Yeah.
No.
So
So
yeah, what would be the reason that they would do it?
yeah, I mean, again, you could make up reasons, right? But it's not. I haven't heard a compelling argument for why the government would, over decades and multiple administrations, would have such an extreme effort to keep all evidence that they have of aliens secret. Plus, I mean, the government. There's no evidence that the government keep anything at that level secret over decades. If you're saying they've been hiding it for a couple of years while they do their examination or think about how they're going to roll it out or whatever, it's like, okay, I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I could buy that.
I could buy it.
But over decades and decades, it's impossible.
Yeah, with so many presidents that got into office, that came out of office, and you'd figure it would have gotten out by now.
Right.
The other thing that I don't understand is why people think that there's like all of this physical material, all of these aliens, autopsies, and there's all this physical evidence. With that much stuff, with this many UFOs happening globally, something would shake out, right? Like.
Yeah. The other thing, you also have to be thinking that the United States is the only country in the world, right? Do UFOs only crash in the U.S.? Right, and so even if you think that our government somehow is a lockdown so tight that they can keep a secret for decades, they can't. But even if you thought that means every other country in the world could too. Yeah. Or somehow UFOs other countries never get their hands on evidence for alien spacecraft. Yep. Again, it makes absolutely no sense.
And we live in a time now, Steve, where 2 billion or 3 billion people have smartphones in their pockets, right?
Yeah.
Which means
cameras and videos are now ubiquitous. So,
and because we haven't had a major lurch forward in like UFO sightings and all that, like every single footage that we see is always right on the edge. It's blurry. It's too far away. It's non-conclusive. Somebody would have captured the holy grail of video at this point of a UFO. If what they say is true and the frequency is true, there would be that video evidence.
You would think that the chance of capturing a compelling picture or video would have gone up.
Exactly.
But what we're seeing is the same level of poor grade of evidence. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because the ambiguity, the blurriness of those pictures, of that evidence, is the phenomenon, right? That is the phenomenon. So we can, in the absence of smoking gun evidence that everybody could agree upon, like, yes, this is evidence of alien visitation, and now we're inferring from imperfect evidence, there's two major hypotheses have emerged to explain the UFO phenomenon. One is the alien hypothesis, right? They're UFOs, even some subset of it, doesn't have to be everything, but some subset of it represents true alien visitations, right? Those are actual spaceships, actual aliens, alien activity, etc. The other hypothesis is what we call the psychocultural hypothesis, which is that this is a mythology that has taken on a life of its own, and it is a collection of phenomena that people lump in under aliens, that infer aliens from them, but really you can explain everything as just a cultural belief, psychological episodes or phenomena, whatever, that is consistent with a modern mythology, right? I find the psychocultural hypothesis way more compelling than the alien hypothesis, and I think the evidence strongly favors that side. For example, we know that sightings tend to happen in places where there's a strong belief in UFOs, right? It sort of follows the belief, not the other way around. They happen in places like near military bases where people are very likely to be seeing experimental aircraft or high power aircraft that they don't fully understand, for example. Now, often when we discuss this, we get a lot of pushback. People say, well, you don't know the evidence. You haven't seen these compelling videos or whatever. It's like, well, that's not true. We're very familiar with the evidence. Again, we've been following this for decades. And whenever somebody says that to me, my answer is always the same. I'm happy to change my mind. Show me the evidence that you're talking about. You can't have this discussion in the abstract. You need to have it focused around a specific piece of evidence. And you can't just say, well, there's so much of it, because that's like the where there's smoke, there's fire argument. It's like, well, either hypothesis, psychocultural or alien, could explain a ton of evidence.
Exactly.
So that doesn't distinguish between the two. What I want to know is, what do you find compelling evidence? What evidence do you have that cannot be explained by the psychocultural hypothesis?
And also, we live
in
a world...
they have nothing. They could never... They usually trot out tired old cases from decades ago that have already been debunked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you believed in it and you have your cell phone on you, you could easily be like, here's my top 10 videos that I'd like to show you. But again, like what Steve's saying, like they don't have anything compelling. and they are bringing out old stuff. I mean,
the latest new stuff is the Pentagon UFOs.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
like the new bit that's been added to the phenomenon. And people now do turn to say, what about these? The Pentagon says there are UFOs. But again, the Pentagon says there's no evidence that they're alien. So if you're going to go by what the Pentagon says, you have to say what they fully say. They said that after a thorough review, they have found no evidence of a government cover-up, of any kind of information that's been squirreled away or secreted within the government, and they found no evidence that this is an alien phenomenon. All they're saying is, yeah, there are some cases that we haven't fully explained, and nobody doubts that. It's not reasonable to expect that we will have been able to explain every single observation to an arbitrary level of detail.
Right.
That's just not a reasonable expectation, and that doesn't distinguish between the two phenomena. But what we do know is whenever you do a careful scientific analysis of any single piece of evidence, it collapses.
Yep.
The Go Fast video was a bird. It was a bird. It was just far enough away that it was blurry.
Yeah.
Right? Or the other ones where it's like there's this blurry light moving at the distance. Like that's what out of focus objects look like.
Yep.
And then people make arguments about the how fast that they were going. It's like, yeah, but you're making unjustified assumptions. And if you make even slightly different assumptions about the distance and height and angle or whatever of the object, it's moving at normal speeds. That could be a bird. Again, you flew past it. It didn't necessarily fly past you.
I think one of the most compelling arguments against visitation is this. We've been transmitting radio frequencies for what, 80 years now?
Yeah, 50s, we could say
Right, since the
30s, I think at the earliest.
So let's even just say it's 100 years.
Yeah.
Round up. 100 years of radio transmissions going out. And when you look at our galaxy and you see the bubble that radio transmission has creeped out to, it's gotten nowhere.
Yeah.
Like in order for aliens to visit us, first they have to find us.
And it's very weak.
Yeah, and it's not this super strong signal. So, unless there is some other metaphysical way that we don't know of that they can detect us.
Well, I mean,
right?
that's a good question. Why would they be here? In particular, maybe you could say they observed our Earth transiting the sun and they were able to tell there was oxygen in the atmosphere and they figured, maybe there's life there or whatever.
But still, light is traveling at the speed of light. It still would
well,
take...
but they would know. There's been oxygen on the Earth for billions of years.
Yeah.
So anybody in our galaxy who could observe us could see that there's oxygen in our atmosphere.
All right, that's
theoretically.
possible. That's possible,
But then, how long would it take for them to get here?
Yeah.
I think, and again, so now we're venturing into the plausibility argument, and I'm willing to even grant that. I don't think it's terribly plausible, but I think depending on how you frame it. So I think, yes, there's life in the universe outside of Earth. I'm not doubting that at all. There's almost certainly life. I think there's probably complex life. I think there's probably intelligent and technological life elsewhere in the universe. But we have no idea what the density is. We just don't. We have no data on the density. But even if you say that there's multiple technological civilizations in our galaxy, which is by no means certain or even probable, we just really don't know. It's very difficult to travel at interstellar distances.
Yeah.
So then you have to further hypothesize that it was worth the journey for them somehow.
Or that they came up with faster than light.
Or they have some kind of FTL drive or whatever. They have something that we can't even imagine physics. So I'll even grant you that. I'll even just set aside the entire plausibility argument and say that it would be possible for advanced aliens to get here and they would know about us and want to come here. Fine. Where are they? There's just no evidence that they're here.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I'm willing to believe it. There's just no evidence that they're here. We haven't seen a single piece of objective evidence.
I think
and
if
everything
they came,
everything is ambiguous. It is the blob squatch, of spaceships, of aliens. It's always perfectly ambiguous.
if aliens came, I think we would either not know at all, or we would know 100% no. It wouldn't be like this, we saw this anomaly. It's just like, no, it's not going to happen.
And again,
that way.
we have the privilege of having been involved with this for, again, over 40 years. You can read books from the 1960s on the UFO phenomenon. I read one by Carl Sagan, and it's the same arguments, right, that they were making today that they were making back then. The thing about the strategic ambiguity, right, of the aliens, it's like, well, they want us to suspect that they're here, but not be certain because they're trying to ease us in to this idea that they're in, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But how long are they going to drag that out? Again, so some of these arguments are semi-reasonable 50 years ago, 40 years ago, but like as a perpetual argument, like they're going to forever be keeping us in this limbo, gray area where they're just teasing us with tantalizing, ambiguous evidence, but never really fully revealing themselves, or the government is keeping it under wraps because they don't think we can handle it for some reason, which is ridiculous. But if they somehow thought that belief holds through generation after generation, administration after administration, all of these arguments, become ridiculous, increasingly so over time.
Exactly.
They're just not sustainable over decades. And so I'm willing to believe that aliens are here, but I think that there's no evidence for it that's at all compelling. I think that the UFO phenomenon written large, like all the things, the cattle mutilations, everything, crop circles, abductions, sightings, all of it is best explained, overwhelmingly best explained as a psychocultural phenomenon. It has all of the fingerprints of that. It has none of the fingerprints of a genuine alien phenomenon. And if you think I'm wrong, send me the evidence. But no one has been able to meet that challenge for decades. The evidence simply doesn't exist.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, especially if you don't know who we are or whatever, you might just think that we're naysayers. No, I would love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be scary. It'd be a little scary and intimidating if aliens visited the Earth or whatever. But, I mean...
if they are, I'd want to know about it.
I'd want to know. I'd want to know.
Absolutely.
I'd want to know what they look like.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be
It would be the most amazing scientific story of human history. Of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time. There's no way anybody would be able to keep that under wraps.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
And I'll tell you what. If we do find out that there are aliens and we know what they look like and all that stuff, conspiracy theories would explode around
Absolutely.
them. And like we're not seeing that. Every little bit here and there. Oh yeah, Biden's a lizard because his skin is wrinkly. You know what I mean? It's like well, whatever. So anyway, Steve. So you're saying no to this.
I'm saying I'm skeptical.
But would you, if the aliens came and said, Stephen Novella, we think you're probably one of the smartest people on the planet. Would you come with us? Would you teach us critical thinking? But you cannot see your family ever again.
What kind of technology are they offering?
They have a holodeck.
They have a holodeck. They have good, like they can keep me alive for a long period of time.
Oh no, life extension, the whole bit. Would you go? You step out and you're gone.
And I'm gone.
You're
forever.
gone, and they can't, and they don't, and they go, look.
That's a tough choice.
We don't know why we're going to put you on this rigid thing, but you can't say goodbye to anybody,
right?
And you can't go grab
kind
your
of a
favorite
contrived
snacks.
situation.
Yeah. Oh, no, let's say you can grab 2 snacks that we will replicate for you.
Just 2.
Yes. So would you go, and what would the snacks be?
I know what yours would be: meatballs.
Yes.
And pasta.
Probably.
Yeah.
Could
you live on that for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Yeah, but they'd give you the sludge that would be that
and then
feeds your
sludge.
body.
Yeah, the nutrition sludge.
It'd be like from what do you call it? What's that? With Neo, you know what I mean? They
Likely, that's not a decision I will ever have.
But
to
I
face.
want to hear the answer. Would you go?
I can't. You can't answer that question.
What would you pick for food? You have 2 food items.
I think probably one would be pasta.
Yeah, some type of
pasta.
pasta
That's a good staple.
dish.
That's a good staple.
Pizza. I mean, could you never eat pizza again? Pizza hits really hard.
Pizza hits hard. Steak.
A steak.
A good Caesar salad.
Chocolate.
I could, if it's just 2 things, it'd have to be savory, nutritious food.
Yeah,
I don't
you're
think
right,
I could
you're
do
right.
a dessert.
Well, what if they said it could be anything and we'll make it feed your body perfectly?
I'm just still, I could, you can't eat sugar all the time.
I don't get tired of pasta.
I don't get tired of pasta. I do get tired of any dessert.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. All right.
Well, this is something I'd like everyone in the audience to consider. It's a deep question. You got to think about it. Would you leave your family to go on a solar system escapade, never to see them again? That's a tough question, man.
But are aliens visiting the Earth is not a tough question.
No, they're not here. They're not here. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ian.
Okay.
That's it. We're done.
We're done with
Ian,
that
what
video.
would you do? Ian, you are an alien spacecraft lands in your backyard. Your family is at the supermarket.
Yeah.
They say to you, Ian, come with us, explore the galaxy, dare the universe. will get you will be happy and comfortable and live an extended lifespan, and you could have a holodeck that would let you feel like you're on Earth if you want to.
I don't know,
Would you go?
The happy seems to be doing a lot of weightlifting.
Yeah.
there. I don't know about happy.
Would
to
you
not see
go?
My family
Well,
again.
Would
Ian
you
has
go?
Probably not.
two young kids, so it's different. My kids are adults.
That's
so
true.
similarly-
That's fair.
Yeah, it's if you could say like if the Doctor shows up in his TARDIS and wants to swoop you away to be his companion, but can't guarantee you'll ever be brought back to the same time period.
I don't know if
Which I would go. I would 100% go.
Yeah, at this point, I wouldn't. But like,
I wouldn't
maybe
either. I
later
mean,
in
I
life.
am so in love with my wife and love my kids so much. Like I couldn't abandon them for that. It would be amazing, though. Of course
Yeah.
it'd be.
Depends on what
To
my
see the
family's getting
universe,
at the
you can see
grocery
the-
store. What are they
Take me to
getting?
the most amazing place in the universe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And the
it's
food
pretty
thing, I'd
amazing
have to
place.
be like, look, man, I can tell you the quick answer about my family, but give me a few days about the food thing. Let me
Food
think
is
about
hard.
it,
Yeah, that's
because
hard.
I can't make that. I'm already changing my mind as I sit here.
That's right.
So I told you I had
Birthday
somebody
party was good.
somebody
Thank you.
on Facebook
Oh Lord.
bring up a discussion
go.
about the question on our Facebook
Yeah.
group page was like, what is it about the SGU that bothers you, or mistakes that they made, or whatever? It's like basically like, what criticism do you have for the SGU? And one of the things that they said was our position on meat production and being a consumer of meat. And one of the things that was brought up is my this ongoing joke that we have about me being fascinated with meatballs. And look, we've talked about this extensively
Yeah.
behind the scenes. We've talked about
We've talked
it
about it on the show quite a bit. And
know-
our position basically is that, people should be eating less red meat than the average person in the West is. And, the meat consumption has gone up dramatically. That's not really sustainable. It's not a good thing.
It's
We've
horrible
all
for the environment.
personally dramatically decreased our meat consumption from its peak, 20 years ago or whatever.
Yep.
But we don't fully 100% eliminate meat from the diet. That's just a choice that we make. I think that's a reasonable choice to make, to sort of minimize but not eliminate meat consumption. And we've said this on the show, and we've talked about various aspects on the show. But there are some people who believe strongly that humans should eat no meat.
Yeah.
I disagree with them. But I don't criticize their position. I don't shame them or anything. Whatever, they can make that choice for themselves. I don't think they should be shaming us into making any their choice. I think our position is perfectly reasonable, and we defend it with science and evidence.
I mean, I think
and
if
we
you
admit there's a personal choice involved in there as
if
well.
you're an extreme meat eater, a red meat eater,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Then I think it's
You mean American?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think,
Sorry.
it's, I think having a philosophical position like you're overdoing it. You should really consider the environment. You should really
And
consider
your personal
And your
health.
health.
Yeah, and your
You can
personal
have heart
health.
disease.
But having a little bit of meat is actually probably optimal for your health.
Yeah, and also there are so many things that can be done to make the meat industry healthier and more
Yeah.
humane. Regulations that are not being put in place.
Well, but it's actually very well regulated industry. But I think if we remove the pressure on the industry by cutting our meat consumption, globally in half, that would take care of a lot of the issues, right? It's that they're pushing it to try to maximize, meat production for a growing market. Rather than just picking the low-hanging fruit, like having the most sustainable meat production, then we could all have a little bit of meat, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I think that's where we want to
But
get
I was
to.
also saying too, I think the government should be encouraging lab-grown meat and meat substitutes.
Yeah, and
that
then
taste
eventually we'll
good.
have lab-grown meat.
I mean, I have had tofu
Not in Florida.
prepared well that tasted very good.
Not me.
I have. I definitely. I mean, and Andrea.
So there was a recent advance in
Lab-grown meat?
Lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to make the cut for something we talk about on the show, but essentially what they came up with was a process by which you have a vat and you're growing them. I think they were using chicken cells, right? Chicken meat cells.
chicken.
So the process is essentially a self-sustaining process. So they figured out how they could basically scoop, the meat off the top and continually feed it so that it's a continuous process.
Yeah, it's constantly generating.
Yeah, you're not
meat
doing it
cells.
for a while, then you have to shut it down and
Yeah.
whatever. It's like you're constantly just
That's
input and
huge.
output,
That's
and
huge.
just have a stream of meat cells. And so the goal there is to make it cheaper. And they calculated that if you have that process, They said they could make chicken at the same cost as basically organic chicken.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, great. That's fantastic. I mean, if they can get to that and it tastes good, I'll switch in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Now there was another aspect to the conversation, Steve. So
Yeah.
we briefly talked about this earlier. There was like this cultural aspect that I became aware of as I was writing my response. I'm like, yeah, you know, like, okay, you know, I consider in my head, like, okay, what would it feel like to get rid of eating meat? And again, I've cut my meat intake by an order of magnitude, like straight up, like from 20 years ago. Like red meat in my house is a rare item. And if I have a meat allowance, if I were to give myself a meat allowance, I am spending that largely on meatballs or what I would consider to be cultural food, like food that from my childhood that goes back into my Italian heritage. And I straight up, like, I love meatballs. I don't make them all the time. They're not healthy things to eat. Believe me, I load them with cheese and everything. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there. And I'm not, getting ultra lean meat either. Like, it's like 80%, they're just not great to eat from a health perspective. So
it's all about amount.
Yeah, so I cut way back on how often I make it and everything. But I admitted to the guy, like, I am not prepared to give up some of my favorite food items.
Yeah.
I will dramatically decrease my intake of them, but I'm not going to just give them up, especially when we're around the corner from lab.
It's like a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's like, you could eat just everything in moderation. Like, if there are things that you really like to eat, but maybe are not the best in terms of nutrition versus calories. Like, I love cheesecake, but you can't eat it every night.
No.
You know what I mean?
I might have cheesecake 3 times a year.
But I might have
point.
it once a year is fine. Whatever. So like.
But when you do, you're eating 3 cheesecakes. But the other thing too was, another comment basically was, you should, as an individual, just be able to rationalize this and achieve this non-meat status. You know what I mean? Not instantly, but that should be your overwhelming goal. And I realize that it is, personally, it isn't. I don't have that goal in my head. My goal is to eat healthy, which dramatically drives down my meat consumption. I have not decreased my chicken consumption.
Yeah.
If anything, chicken has probably replaced it, and chicken was off the list as well, which I was surprised to hear. Ian, do you have any input on this?
Well, as the local vegetarian in the room.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
Although
What is your
technically
opinion?
a pescatarian, but whatever. I mean, were they saying it because of ethics? Like, because
It was
the
both.
ethical,
It was.
I mean, because the other thing is, like, it is a little bit, like, privileged to be a vegan or a vegetarian. It's like, vegan food and vegetarian food can be very expensive. Like, it is like that classic of, like, the very poor people seem to have to eat vegetables because it's, like, the only thing available and it's easy to grow. Then they upgrade to getting meat. And now we've upgraded to the point where we're now we're saying no meat.
Well,
in some settings.
Yeah.
Not in everything.
There's so much. I mean, the thing is, for the ethical argument is its own argument.
Right.
I disagree. I think you could raise an animal, treat it ethically, treat it humanely, and slaughter it and eat it, and it's perfectly fine. I have no problem ethically with that. Right? It's as long as they don't suffer. We don't owe them like a long, fulfilling life. For a cow, just.
That's the hard thing.
But I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to figure out.
That's philosophy, and
yeah.
there's opinion there. But if you talk about like environmentally,
right?
The people who say we should consume no meat, like we shouldn't be raising any animals, whatever. Are you aware that 50% of our fertilizer comes from cows? Right, comes from manure. Half of the fertilizer we use in the world to grow our crops comes from manure.
I wasn't sure about that.
What do you think is going to happen if we get rid of the manure supply?
We will have a shit deficit, Steve.
Yes.
That's not good.
Jay, you don't know shit.
Hey, wait, Olivia. Forget about it, right? Olivia knows what we're talking about.
So corn is technically part cow, Dookie.
And Olivia, you're damn right. I stole that tin, and you will never get it back.
So,
Jordan Peterson advocates for only eating red meat. I mean, he also almost died from drinking apple cider,
Jordan
I think.
Peterson is a jerk.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Talk about him. Anyway, back to what you're saying.
So
Fertilizer.
anyway, you have to think about how is the whole system going to work? Where is all of this, the nitrogen-based fertilizer going to come from? Certainly, you can't say I want to have 100% organic, vegetarian diet. And organic meaning you have to be fertilized with manure, right? So then some people say, well, you could use human manure. Human manure is that's the worst idea because
pathogens.
In terms of pathogens, that's not a great idea.
Terrible.
And then also think about how that would work. So it's just not a good idea. The other thing is, this has been studied, and we've spoken about this as well. The best thing for the environment is to use each piece of land for its optimal use, right? And some pieces of land are optimally used for having cattle graze on them, right? That's a good way to convert non-human edible calories into high-quality human edible calories. And so that's what I'm talking about in terms of having optimal, sustainable systems.
But they do give off an incredible amount
of methane,
which is bad for the environment. And so so I know this might sound crazy, and I'm not an engineer, and I don't have all the answers here. But could we house them in a way to capture that without it going into the atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, methane is very short-lived. It's not, even though it's a greenhouse gas, it's not permanently adding to the carbon cycle or whatever. So it's actually not that big a problem long term in terms of the environment. But again, that would sort of take care of itself just by reducing the sheer number of cattle.
So I think a reduction in overall meat consumption is a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
I think that producing lab-grown meat and greener ways to produce these types of calories is awesome, as long as the footprint.
Listen, we have to use our land efficiently.
Yeah, definitely.
We have to use our land efficiently, and that's the number one. If you are concerned about the environment, that should be your number one concern. That means having the smallest footprint possible, which further means we produce as much food as we can off of each acre of land that we're using to make food, and that we're growing the type of food that is best for that environment and that ecosystem. So that means a lot of things. That means the whole localvore thing, by the way, is bullshit, right? The whole it's better for the environment to eat local is nonsense. What's best for the environment is to grow potatoes in Ohio or Idaho, and buy those potatoes.
And buy the potatoes.
Right, but just ship those potatoes, which are made sustainably or efficiently in Idaho, because the soil there happens to be great for potatoes, rather than try to grow potatoes everywhere, including places where it's not optimal. Right?
Yeah.
So use the land for the use for which it is optimal. It also means GMOs and modern farming where we are maximizing food output.
At that rate.
If we switched over entirely to organic, we would have to increase our land use by 20-30%. And we don't have it. First of all, we don't have the land.
Exist, I know.
But even if we made the land exist, that's terrible for the environment. That's the worst possible thing we could do for the environment.
But we've done that for cattle. We've gotten rid of forests.
Which is not good.
Not good. Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to the best thing that can happen is a dramatic reduction in everyone's consumption of red meat. You could still have it in your diet, but don't completely get rid of it.
And the thing is, it kind of matches what's optimal for your health, right?
Exactly.
And someone asked, I think it was Olivia, said, can you just eat protein powder? It's well, actually, no. It's not just about the protein. There's lots of vitamins and minerals and stuff and other micronutrients that you get in meat that is hard to get in other things. And vegetarians need to really know what they're doing if they want. Like Ian knows.
I check my iron levels all the time. Make sure I'm not anemic.
Yeah, not only that, but you have to really make sure that you're eating a well-rounded vegetarian diet.
I mean,
what kind of things are going to replace it? It's not easy. And
if Ian's eyes get sunken into the back of his head, I hand him a hamburger. I'm like, you got to eat this.
I have to smell it, and my eyes pop.
If you just have a little bit of meat in your diet, just health-wise, nutrition-wise, it's so much easier for your diet to be.
And I put it to you that meat should be meatballs.
That's fine.
Okay?
They can be meatballs.
That's what I want.
So are they against lab-grown meat? Because that seems to be
He didn't
the
really
perfect
say.
solution.
Lab-grown meat's fine.
He didn't say.
Seems the perfect.
And again, I've read extensively about lab-grown meat, and we're not 100% sure where it's going to land on the is it green scale.
Because it does use water, it does use energy.
So we got to
It does use. You need feedstock. Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
It might not be the most efficient way to make meat cells, right? Growing animals might be the most efficient way to do it.
TikTok, shut up.
The big advantage, there's two big advantages to lab-grown meat, right?
Yes,
one,
there's two.
It may not be one for the environment. The environment is not necessarily one, but that's an open question. One is that you can bioengineer them to be healthy,
Yes, less fat,
yeah.
less animal fats.
And two is
No.
it eliminates the ethical argument.
100%.
Right, those are the two big things. It's not effective. It's not cost effective. It may not be environmentally effective, but it does have those other two advantages.
I see
so
a
it's worth
future-
continuing to research it and develop
Absolutely,
it,
absolutely.
because we may get to the point where it is advantageous
Yeah.
in terms of energy and the environment
Now,
and whatever.
I see a future where most people will be consuming lab-grown meat. This is just a
Yeah.
prediction I'm making. Don't
Right.
don't make a big deal out of
Right.
this. But it'll be very bougie
Yeah.
to buy a really expensive real steak.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there'll be
certainly,
Some people in the
yeah.
future will be like, this is a real
That's
steak.
what it is
you know
already
I mean?
now.
Yeah.
You get like
and
you
that
know,
might be
Kobe
like
and
a treat, a once or twice a year treat.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm gonna get a freaking piece of
You ate a real cow?
steak. You know, hamburgers are fine. That thing, like lab-grown meat's great for hamburger. It's all ground up anyway.
yeah, you get the
know what I
crap
mean?
meat, yeah.
But there's just something about a steak that's different, and you know,
Yeah.
But that's the occasional treat, and that's fine. That's how it's been for most of human existence.
And another thing
this,
they
this
said-
idea that we can eat all of this high-end, you know, food like meat all the time is we've never been
ridiculous.
that way. It's ridiculous.
They also said that we're so American in the way we think about things. And my
Yeah.
response is,
What does that mean?
we try not to be, but we
like,
are guilty as charged. We're American. We grew up in American
Famously,
society.
the rest of the world doesn't eat a significant amount of meat, though. Like, what are they talking about? What does that mean? The American
because there basically is sentiment in the United States is kind of generalized. It is. It's kind of like the big truck meat eating. Like it's kind of
that's a stereotype,
but
but we
it's
don't fall into
kinda
that
true.
story.
It's kind of true though. There is a big truck meat eating thing going on in the United States. There is.
Yes, but that's
And I agree with it. But I mean, to ask
we
us,
try to have a more cosmopolitan
we do,
international
but
attitude, but
to
we
expect and ask
Hey,
us
we're
to
East Coast
completely
elitists.
divorce ourselves from the country that we were brought up in, to think critically that is in a way that it's like it's a hard thing to do.
But keep us honest. You know, give us the feedback. We read it. We incorporate it.
Yeah,
We
of
try to like
Change.
get out of our American biases. But yes, I'm not going to sit here and say that we don't have an American
Yeah, of course we
perspective
do.
on reality. Of course we do.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
And we're not even
for us.
saying like the ideal position intellectually would be to be divorced of ideology and to that's the goal of a critical thinker, is to get as close to like the real thinking as possible. But we're all susceptible to the time that we grew up in, the country that we grew up in, the people and culture that we were surrounded by, right? Like we grew up in the United States, but we have a very heavy Italian-American influence on our culture. So that's all.
Forget about it.
That's all cooked into who we are. But here we are as skeptics, and we're basically saying to everyone, we want to be as rational as we can. We can
Yeah.
take your feedback. We absolutely.
But
want
don't
to hear
assume
it.
you don't have a bias.
Yeah, but
You have a European bias or whatever, or Australian bias.
I mean, look, Olivia comes from Switzerland, and chocolate was literally falling out of her
Oh,
palm.
that is true.
No,
Right?
Right?
True.
Like, talk about a bias. Like,
Talk about a stereotype.
Chocolate.
I'm from.
Now, I picked
from
up every
Switzerland.
piece of that
Here's
chocolate.
some chocolate.
Chocolate for you, my friend. No, but we ate the shit out of that chocolate.
Yeah.
I ate
That's
the shit
good.
out of it. No, Olivia wants to know, did my kids get any chocolate? They absolutely were offered the chocolate. Here you go. This is from a listener of ours. Her name is Olivia.
But
She's
if they
really
don't eat it
awesome.
in the next 5 minutes.
My daughter Olivia was very excited that there was a listener named Olivia. It's a big deal to an 8-year-old. But they didn't go hog wild on it, and I did. It's okay.
No, but they did when they visited me. When
Yeah,
you were
they
here
did wi-
last
they
week.
wiped you out.
They wiped me
Yeah,
out
they
of
wiped
my
you out.
Swiss
Oh, that
chocolate.
was bad.
And then
Right.
Sharon, for Christ's sake,
Children.
Sharon makes me a
Oh
bag.
my gosh.
of
Biscotti.
biscuit, right?
You have
She ma-
chocolate biscotti?
No, I had the almond one.
The almond one's good
With
too.
lemon?
And I'm telling you that bag almost didn't make it out of Chicago.
Yeah.
It was effed up. I ate like 2,000 or 3,000 calories of that shit in a very short amount of time, and it's awesome. When
Yeah,
I say
those are
shit,
good.
I mean it's the good shit.
It's the
And
good
I thank you both, Olivia and Sharon. Thank you so much. I just absolutely love that.
So someone asked where in the States we're from. We're in Connecticut. Connecticut. We are
sandwiched
northeasterners.
between. We are New York City's below us and Boston's above us, and we are heavily influenced by those two cities.
Yeah.
Kinetic cuties.
So if we
Connecticut, say.
there was that New York Times, like, where are you from article.
Oh my
Remember
God,
that
yes.
where it asked you like 30
me see
questions
if I can
about
find that.
what do you call a big long sandwich? Is it a sub,
A
a hoagie,
hoagie?
a grinder?
Yeah.
And then you answer a bunch of those questions. Is it soda or pop or soda pop? And then it tells you where you're from.
Yeah.
And it basically said that
Nailed
we were
it.
from Yonkers,
Yeah.
which is like geographically halfway between where our father grew up and our mother grew up.
No, it's like you guys are right here,
Yeah.
and it was dead nuts.
exactly dead
It was
on.
freaking scary.
Yeah, because we
Scary.
definitely picked up. Our mother, was from Brooklyn, and my father's from Danbury, and we kind of picked up on both of those, cultural backgrounds in terms of our speech and everything, and they nailed it, like exactly right in between those two.
Hey, so while I have some attention from people out here that listen to the show, so we had a meeting about Nauticon, and we're kind of zeroing in. We're very much leaning towards DC, Arlington, that region right there. I'm curious to know what you guys think about that. I know that we got feedback from people on the thing on our website that basically, Ian, right, it was pointing towards DC as the most.
DC is a great city.
Yeah, that was the
It is.
I lived there for 5 years. It's a lot to do there.
Yeah.
Arlington, well, I actually lived in Arlington. It's right over the Key Bridge from DC, and it's a metro ride away from anywhere you want to go. So that's basically DC.
Yeah, I'm feeling.
And
really
actually,
good
like if
about
you
it.
have like the DC's a triangle, and then Arlington completes the triangle.
That's correct.
Basically,
That's
anyway. So
that's kind of where we're leaning.
it's
towards
a
now.
great city to do stuff in, because then there's so much other stuff we could do, like all the museums.
Oh yeah,
the
we
mall.
had so many good ideas last
Yeah.
night. It was very
This is a
very
good one.
exciting phone call.
Chowder? Chowder.
And
Chowder.
then
Chowder.
and then we were talking about like the bits that we did last time. Which ones would we keep, or which ones would we like modify and all that. So
Modify.
it's fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So we're shooting right now for the May 16th weekend.
Yeah, May 16th.
I'm hoping that it lands there. It could be the
That's of
weekend
next
before or after that. Oh, the other question
Never
that we
know.
wanted to know is if it goes on Memorial Day weekend. Was that the weekend?
No, we're not going to do Memorial Day.
We won't. You don't want to do that, and we don't
That's-
want it on Mother's Day either.
And we don't want it on Mother's
All
Day.
right, so it's got to be the 16th.
Yeah.
All right, we're working on it, people. We will put up a pre-ticket interest poll to see how many people want to go. There was a lot more people that wanted to go than tickets I had available last year, so I'm going to increase the number. But anyway, we'll put that out. We'll let you know on the show.
Ben is obsessed with the Chicago dogs after the
The
1000th
dogs.
show. Yeah, we had the hot dogs were good.
Yeah,
The
they
hot
were-
dogs were good, but they were
good.
not.
They're
To me,
hot
they
dogs.
were hot dogs.
I mean, there was a
was
bunch of.
fun.
I had the Chicago style, so that was
Shag,
cool.
What was that meat thing we had?
We had the Al's
Oh, yeah,
Italian
Al's
beef.
Italian
That
beef.
was good, man.
That
That
the
was
best.
that was
That
the
was
best
good.
thing we had. I think
Yeah.
when we were there, and the pizza was shite.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it was not very
It
good.
wasn't good, guys. I'm
To
sorry.
this
I
New
mean,
York
we-
pizza-loving Italian.
We couldn't
American
make it to
Connecticut
Vito's. I know we
The
couldn't make it to
Vito's
Vito's
with
and
all-
Nick,
yeah.
but that was like supposed to be the best place, and
It
we
was
couldn't get the
shite.
Pequods. But it's like, it's not that much better, honestly. I mean, I don't know about Vito's and Nick's, but like,
Look, here's
I know
here's
that's
the-
100% cultural bias.
Here
and
is
just
the
regional
summary.
bias.
Yeah,
Here
it's
is the
hard.
summary.
yeah.
We luckily live in the bubble where the best pizza in the world
Yeah.
is made.
That's true.
Everybody
Very
else
close.
can suck it. Right? That's it.
Pretty-
we gave
pretty
Chicago
true.
pizza a chance. I told Steve
We
this,
gave it a
and
solid
Ian-
try.
I told Steve and Ian this. We went to
There are other
one of the number one
God.
places to get pizza there.
No, Lou Malnati's is not. I
No,
mean, it's a
it-
chain.
It was the chain, but a lot of people
I
recommended
know
it.
people like it.
We ate there,
It is
and
the
I told
thing.
Steve, the farther away I get from that meal, the more I hate it.
Right.
I kept thinking about it, and I'm like, and then I figured it out. I absolutely figured out what's wrong with their pizza, and I'm going to tell you.
Oh, look what Sharon says. Cooking competition at SG University were my favorite bits. Yeah, I think we are all kind of in a similar place.
No,
with that.
no, that's not necessarily
Well,
true.
SG University.
SG University,
is
we
definitely
agreed,
the
is a
best. Everyone
keeper.
agrees.
Some version of that.
The
Some
cooking
version of that.
competition we liked, but it was like a lot of setup and
It was
a
a lot of
potential,
setup.
Everybody's
like,
talking
yikes.
as if they did all the work. I
Jay
did
did
all
all
the
the
work. It was fine. We could do it.
I think we could do it
It's
again.
not that
I
big
liked
of a
it.
deal. It was a cool
Yeah,
bit.
but we had to listen
have
to you
some other
bitch and
days.
moan about it the whole
but
time.
I did it. But that was the first time I did it. Now I
That's
got
true.
it under my thumb. I know
I don't know.
exactly
I
what to
think
do.
We could do a non-cooking one. We could do cold food ones. You know what I mean? Like,
or we could just do
sushi,
something else,
whatever. We could do
with the
something
similar vibe and
Similar
a
vibe.
similar
Right,
thing,
right,
but just
right.
not maybe not as technically as difficult or
Right.
whatever. We'll see. But that we're still brainstorming
feedback.
that one.
Still like
Sharon
it,
is
regardless.
representative of all patrons.
That's true.
So when she talks, all patrons.
Not
are
like
talking.
Sharon is the
So let
cooking
me
one.
finish my
It's
pizza
like-
thing, okay?
Yeah.
I figured out the problem, the biggest problem with that pizza.
Was it the crust?
The fucking bread.
sauce?
The,
Yeah, the
the
crust.
was it the cheese?
Was it the
sauce or
cheese?
bread?
The toppings?
The bread was literally flavorless.
Flavorless. The bread was so. What they do
It was
is
butter
and again,
soaked
this is
bread.
It
That
is
was
It's
But
what it
it's
is.
what it's
That's what they
called.
did. It's like so the bread is crap. So we're gonna soak it in butter and then it'll be fine.
So when
so
we
you end
go-
up with this butter-soaked, tasteless cardboard,
When we
which
eat-
reminds me
yeah.
of Chuck E. Cheese.
Exactly.
And I hate it.
Exactly.
Hate
so
it.
when we eat pizza here, dude, I am taking crusts of bread off of other people's plates
it's
and eating
so
it because it tastes
delicious.
great.
The
It's
crust
wonderful
is the
bread.
best.
You can't make good pizza without outstanding pizza crust.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So that is bullshit. Okay?
Yeah.
Then Then the sauce was just mediocre.
It was
just
not
didn't
good.
have a zing
It wasn't.
to
It was not good.
Pizza
the sauce was not
has
good.
to have a zing to it, and if it's not there, it's not pizza sauce. So I
Also,
don't,
they do the thing backwards where like the cheese is on first and then the sauce on
Ridiculous.
top. So it's like you don't get the
Ridiculous.
caramelized cheese
No.
I mean, you do kind
they
of.
just
but not
don't know
really.
what the hell they're doing.
We haven't tried Detroit style. I've never tried it either.
And
I know that's
they
popular.
couldn't even make a salad. Let's face it.
The salad was kind of mid. There was
the
no
salad
cheese
was
on the
bad.
Then
salad
we
either.
tried
I was like,
another
what are you
one. We
doing?
tried the flat tavern pizza.
And that was fine.
No, it wasn't.
But that was like getting frozen pizza.
That was
like
frozen pizza from Costco.
I know. It was the same people that recommended Al's that recommended that pizza place.
But I
So I was
preferred
like,
it over the
okay.
deep dish, though.
Yeah, it's
Me
definitely
too.
better.
It had flavor.
It
And
had
actually,
some
the
flavor.
sauce had flavor.
It was
but
like party pizza.
It was
you know what I
party
mean?
pizza.
yeah, totally.
Bottom line is, look, if you like it, knock yourself out, friends.
Yeah,
We
no
don't care.
judgment on our
But-
part.
but
No judgment.
Jay's
You're
right,
wrong.
though. We happen to live in the part of the world with the best pizza.
If you pass through New Haven, Connecticut, go to Sally's or Frankie's,
Or modern.
and you
I
will
think modern's
have
better,
a
honestly.
pizza orgasm.
Or go to
and then you'll
Manhattan
know.
and eat
Manhattan.
any pizza you can
Yeah,
find.
basically
That's
anywhere.
true.
Yes.
Yeah.
There
Those
you go.
are
But
really
I will
good.
say, I've had incredible pizza in Italy. You know,
me too.
Of course,
Yeah,
right
Napoleon.
in Florence, my wife and I went to
Napoleon.
like
Yeah.
one of the pizza. You know, it's all
it's different, but it's awesome because the sauce is so
oh,
delicious.
damn. Everything was freaking delicious,
Yeah.
and it's all in a wood fired.
Yeah,
oven,
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean, they don't have any of that crap that we have here. You know, all those regulations. that don't let people,
those
hey,
regulations.
and this is what I don't get. You have the best pizza in the world is made out of these charcoal or wood fired ovens, right? It makes the best pizza in the world, and then they're like, "Oh, well, you can't make those anymore." What is that because of the environment? Is the local government actually making a decision about the environment, and they're applying it to pizza restaurants?
Wait, you can't have wood. You can't have wood.
No, you can't build those anymore. The other
in
Frankie's,
restaurants?
other
Really?
Frankie Pepe's
Pepe's?
Pizza around the Connecticut has electric ovens. They don't have the oven.
Wait,
That's
no,
why-
I don't think that's true. First off, they use coal. They use actual coal.
Listen to me
figured
when I
that
tell
out.
you this.
We figured
The
that
real
out
one,
two
the
times
the
ago.
real Frankie's uses a coal-fired oven.
I know, but
The-
I think the other one that's in Stanford is. I don't know. It
No.
looks like a big coal oven.
Prove me wrong.
All right,
and
then.
I will admit it. I will
Okay.
admit it. But I've eaten pizza from multiple
That's
other
it. We're doing a
Frankies.
food tour of Connecticut.
Done.
That's it.
Sharon and Olivia have to come to Connecticut now. We'll do the food tour with
All
them.
right, come on, Olivia, and
Bring-
bring the
bring-
chocolate.
bring chocolate and
chocolate,
biscuit, please.
Or we won't.
All right.
We won't have. Okay. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
You've
Somebody
had
said they're
flavorless
afraid to
pizza in
invite me
Manhattan?
to their city. Who is? I can't read it because there's a thing in the way.
Oh.
Who said that?
Because we will trash your pizza.
Paul
Salvador.
Wador Sims.
No, we'll go. What
What city
give
are
us
we
the
talking
city.
about?
Yeah,
Where
give
are
us the
you?
city.
Come on.
Where are
Identify
you?
yourself.
Yeah.
Put your
friggin-
nickel down.
Yeah, dox yourself. I had flavorless pizza in Manhattan. Yeah, there's bad places in Manhattan too. Sbarro's, have you been to?
I mean,
you can't-
Sbarro's is a
I'm just
chain.
kidding. Yeah, I
It's a
know. I'm just
chain.
kidding. But there are
That's airport
bad,
pizza.
Yeah,
I mean,
there are
come on.
great places and terrible places. That's
Steve,
just- that's
Steve, I don't think the Brookfield one does, man. I've eaten there, and I'm telling you, it did not have all of that char on the bread that you need.
Coal-fired
Yeah,
plastic
so
noodles.
I could be wrong, but I'm not. That's how I'm saying.
Any chance the podcast will be uploaded to YouTube Music formerly? This is an ongoing, I know, question, and it's kind of a sticking point with Libsyn in part because
Our media host.
the media host, because Google is being kind of a jerk, or Alphabet, about like how they connect and the ad placements and all that other kind of stuff. I don't know. We have to talk about that because I think we would have to do it manually. It's annoying that they did.
Yeah,
they
I
changed
mean,
things.
ultimately, yeah, we want it distributed everywhere, but our media host is having issues, and
Mhm.
No, sent us an email. They're like, "Run away! Don't even do it."
yeah,
Like,
it was
as fast
funny.
as you
Their
can.
preliminary
We're like,
email
"What?"
about this change with Google was like, "Don't fall for their BS. It's all garbage or
Yeah.
whatever." But we have some sway. We've been with them a long time, and we have a large enough audience where, like, when Ian and I talk to them, they do care about what we say.
Mhm.
But they've got 1,000 or so podcasts on their platform, and it affects everybody.
So
Anyway.
Olivia's inviting us to Switzerland.
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
come.
I know.
Make a skeptical conference. And
Yeah,
we'll
so this is
come.
what this is in all seriousness. You can organize an SGU skeptical conference, like the European Nauticon or whatever. We'll host it in Switzerland, but you have to help us make that happen,
That's true.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing is,
and it has to be in
And
English.
it's going to be in your apartment.
we would have to be the ticket sales would have to match the cost. And
Yeah.
that's always difficult. Like we've been wanting to go to
fly
Italy.
all of us out there.
We can't go to any foreign country that doesn't speak English. If they don't speak English, we'll never get the numbers, unless there's a pocket of 300 or 400 people. I don't know. I just don't know.
No, I think I
Depends.
disagree with that. I think we can go to a non-English speaking country.
Well, we're thinking
a lot
about
of people speak English.
Spain in 2026, right?
We are thinking about Spain 2026.
I want to go.
following
I want to
the,
go to Japan.
Eclipse.
I want to go to Italy.
Yeah.
I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go to Switzerland.
New Zealand.
I want to go to Spain. I want to go to
Spania.
South Africa.
Iceland. I want to go to Iceland.
Oh.
I would rather
Reykjavik.
go to Africa than South Africa. I'd rather
Yeah.
go on a.
Well, you go to South Africa and then you go on a safari from
yeah,
there.
Okay.
To like Zambia
You know,
or
I want a hot dog.
I
I
want
want a hamburger. You'll get nothing in like.
No, a cheeseburger. I want a milkshake.
All right, it's my time to leave.
I guess so. I think we're moving on to TikTok.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Click on to the TikTok section.
I'm
That
not going to
way
even say it this time. You know what to do, everybody.
You know what?
You know what I'm going to say. So do it.
You know what to do.
All right.
Canada is a foreign country. Yeah, Canada. I guess
I've heard
technically
that.
we would go there.
We, could do
We were talking
Canada,
about that.
too.
Yeah, we were talking about a little bit of that. A little bit. We didn't discuss which TikToks you wanted to do.
Well, we could do the planet with lights. We could do the sage wall from last week. 'cause after we
let's
do
redo that one.
They're all stupid this week. All the ones.
Oh, there was another image that I wanted to show before we.
Death doesn't exist. I guess we could.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh wait, no, that's not the one. I was looking up some stuff about the food, but that's not what I wanted to pull up. Where is it? Oh, stop. Not this. Ignore that image. This one. There it is. This one. Did you hear about the guy who was discovered to have 90% of his brain missing, yet he was living a normal life?
That's old. Come on.
I know. So somebody had mentioned us in one of these things.
It's not missing.
It's not even true.
It's all
Right.
there. That's his entire brain
Right.
is there.
And it's compressed
just
or something?
squished.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like fluid or something.
That's-
It's like squishing.
Everyone has fluid inside their brain. Those are the ventricles. They're filled with cerebrospinal fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have hydrocephalus, that fluid can build up.
Mm-hmm.
If that is probably a congenital hydrocephalus, and the guy's been that way his whole life, or it happens slowly enough over time. Again, the brain is very compressible. It's like jelly, and yeah, it's amazing. You could see people like that who have a rim, looks like a rim for a brain, but the whole brain is there.
Yeah.
They're not like neurologically intact, but they are remarkably high functioning given what their brain looks like on imaging.
Pretty good. So bigger brain doesn't necessarily mean smarter. If I have a big inflated brain, it's not like, what is that? Mega mind? What is that?
Like Megamind?
Like Megamind,
Well, if it's all
I guess.
functioning gray matter.
I guess
probably
that's
then.
true.
Yeah.
All right, let me bring up these tickety talks. We got this. So death doesn't exist.
We start with the lights.
Lights.
Fine.
Okay, we'll do lights. The lights. This one's just like a rotating image, I think. So that'll be a quick one. Boop. It's just music. There. Let's get into the. Oh, I gotta move the camera. 1 second. TikTok mode. TikTok mode.
All right.
Okay, and then we'll do a little picture-in-picture.
How much brain do you need for what?
For what?
That's the question.
Where we're going.
For
we don't
breathing?
need brain. Yeah. For yourself, for your loved ones.
Want to win
to,
the Nobel Prize?
to be the president. All the above. There's like a lot of caveats there. Okay. Hold on, I'm just waiting for this to stop remuxing, and then we will get to going. Okay, rolling there and rolling there. I think this is just music. I don't think there was any other statement.
That's the whole thing.
I was like, I just wanted to capture some of it. Okay. Hopefully we won't get flagged for that. It'll be fine. All right, and we're rolling.
So I know this one's already been out there for a while and been completely debunked, but it's just things have a second, third, fourth life on social media. They keep going around, so it's like whack-a-mole. We have to keep knocking them down. When you see claims like this is more about what to do when you see a claim like this. Don't just believe it and don't take it at face value. There's obviously a lot of mistakes and misinformation and outright lies and nonsense on social media, including TikTok. So it doesn't take long to do a quick Google search or whatever to try to see if there's any plausibility even here. So first of all, one good sort of red flag test is if NASA found evidence of an alien civilization on a planet 6.7 light years away, that would have been massive news. You would not be hearing about it on a TikTok video, right? That would be all over the news. It would be the news story of the millennium. So right there, you should be extremely suspicious. So if we dig into a little bit, you find out, first of all, it never happened. This is a lie. I don't know where this guy's even getting this information. There isn't even a star 6.7 light years from Earth. So I'm not even sure what star that would correspond with. There are ones on like 5.7, 7 point whatever, like on either side of it, but not exactly 6.7 light years. So I'm not even sure what star they're referring to. If you look up the name of that is given in terms of the Kepler, it doesn't correspond with anything either. So right there, things don't check out. So then you have to ask the question, does NASA have the technology to see city lights on an exoplanet? And the answer there is pretty clearly no. For example, if you looked at, say, the Earth, right? The night side of the Earth over Europe, the United States, a lot of lights, right? I'm sure you've seen pictures. If you were looking at the Earth from 6, 7, 8 light years away, you couldn't see it. You wouldn't see those lights. It's insignificant, basically. The amount of lights that would be produced by technology, by civilization, is just negligible when looked at from light years away. And we certainly don't have the technology to see alien, exoplanet city lights. So it's just not true. There was a paper that was basically addressing that question. What's the plausibility? Could Kepler or could the James Webb telescope see a city, lit up at night on an alien planet? At most, you might see a tiny light fluctuation. We don't. It's not like we could image the surface of the planet in any detail. We can't. It's a point. All you could say is how much light is coming from that planet. But then you don't know how much light is supposed to be coming from that planet in terms of its reflectivity and other variables. So the fact that there might be a teeny tiny bit extra light coming from a planet because of city lights we would have no way of knowing that. So this claim is really nonsense from beginning to end, but it's a good representation of the kind of nonsense that's out there and how you can detect it and why you shouldn't believe it. If it seems really extraordinary, you basically for that reason alone, you shouldn't believe it. And it's pretty easy to search for additional information to figure out that, yeah, this is just not true.
All right, we'll move on to the death doesn't exist. You want to do that one?
Sure.
Okay, let me get this one up. Full screen it. Stop. Okay. Picture. Let me start recording real quick. Hold on. Okay. Rolling. Yep.
Anything.
Somebody else is talking. Who's talking? You stop talking. So we're not going to do either of those. Let me close those.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Death doesn't exist and may just according to quantum physics. This is a topic that's really exciting to me. I actually had a near-death experience, so I'm going to speak a little bit about my experience with the idea of death. But what this article is basically saying is when we include the idea of our consciousness into the equation of
Yeah, let me just get the beginning again. I don't
Yeah.
know why it jumped. And that's all we need, I think.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Death doesn't exist and may just be an illusion according to quantum physics. This is a topic that's really...
That's probably good.
Yeah.
All right. And we're rolling.
So this is just a recycling of the old, quantum mechanics says that reality doesn't exist without an observer nonsense, right? This has been, again, long debunked. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics does not say that. And again, I don't care what anyone believes about the afterlife or the ultimate unanswerable questions of things like that. But when you say, according to quantum physics, you're making a scientific argument. You've now stepped into the arena of science. And we need to correct the record here. So this is, again, an old misconception, misinterpretation that gurus of all stripes have exploited and used to make this claim that, well, reality is just an illusion, right? It's not there when you're not looking at it, and we sort of change reality by looking at it. But that's not what quantum mechanics says. The misconception is that, yes, there is an observer effect in that if you interact with a system in order to measure it, you change the system, right? That's essentially what that's referring to. And then in quantum mechanics, there's this idea that fundamental particles exist as a probability wave, and that probability wave collapses when you observe it, But observing it doesn't mean there needs to be a conscious entity observing it. It just means that it's interacting with another particle. That's all that means. That's all that the quantum observation means. That is that it's interacting with its environment. You have to, in order to keep particles in the quantum indeterminacy state, right, in a state of a wave of probability, you have to create like these artificially pristine conditions. Sometimes that involves extremely low temperatures, for example, or vacuums or whatever. But as soon as those particles start to interact with other particles and start to do stuff, the waveform, probability collapses into a point particle, right? So these particles tend to travel like waves and interact like particles. So no observer is necessary. Consciousness is not necessary, right? The universe existed and functioned before there were any conscious entities evolved in it. And that this also, leaping from a misinterpretation of quantum mechanics to all of reality is an illusion, therefore death is an illusion, or consciousness is its own thing that exists by itself. There's no justification for that whatsoever. Again, that's a complete logical leap based upon a false premise. It's just not true. Most of the rest of the video is spent talking about near-death experiences, as if that somehow is evidence for or justifies the incorrect quantum mechanical claims. And this is something I've discussed elsewhere, and just to give you the quick overview, there's no evidence that near-death experiences are anything other than brain experiences. This is things that your brain does when it's deprived of oxygen or is in the process of dying, etc., under extreme stress. But there have, in fact, been studies trying to say, answer this question: can we document any phenomenon that is outside the body or cannot be explained as brain activity? And the answer so far has been no. They could not identify anything that could not be simply explained by brain activity. First of all, the near-death experience reports are based on people's memory. They're based on memory that they have after the alleged experience took place, right? This is when they've recovered from having CPR, having their heart stop or whatever. That takes a long time, and the brain doesn't just wake up instantly, right? It passes through a lot of stages of recovery, through foggy delirium and consciousness before the person becomes fully awake and able to communicate and remember their experiences. We have no idea when those memories formed, right? There's no evidence that they necessarily formed during the near-death experience, during the period of time when their heart was stopped. And therefore, you can't say that memories were forming when there was no brain activity or no heart activity. And again, attempts at proving that that's when the memories formed have failed. So right now, the simplest explanation for near-death experiences are it's a brain phenomenon. Those are just brain experiences. That's it. Not evidence for life after death, not evidence for any kind of quantum consciousness or whatever you want to say. But again, getting back to the first point here, it's important to realize, do not believe anything based upon, well, quantum mechanics says, and then refers to consciousness or an observer or anything. It's simply not true. That's not what quantum mechanics says. Those are gurus misinterpreting what quantum mechanics says. You shouldn't buy it.
Cool.
And then we'll do the Sage Wall from last week.
Yeah, Sage Wall. I got that one.
So I got things slightly wrong last week because ChatGPT let me down.
Those bastards.
So I was using, I did Google research, and there was so much nonsense. Like I couldn't dig deep enough down to get to what the specific information I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of ChatGPT queries to get to that information, and ChatGPT fed me hallucination, false information.
Of course.
So, but it was semi-plausible. So I was like uncomfortable with it. Like, wait, something is not lining up here. So then I spent more time doing research. I'm like, oh yeah, ChatGPT was wrong. So I have to change a couple of the technical details to make sure that.
You talked about it on the show, right?
Yeah, but I fixed it.
Oh, you fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's correct on the show.
Right.
It's correct on the show. It was not correct in the video that I recorded last week, so I just want to record it again.
Right. All right, here we go. Let me record this. And then, all right, here we go.
So there's an ancient wall in Montana that some people have tried to say is a natural rock formation, and almost anybody looks at it and goes, you're out of your fucking mind. That's 100% placed in stacked stones. But the problem is, this ancient wall, look at that. I mean, shut the fuck up. How is that?
Oh, yeah.
Just shut the fuck up. Can I see the original picture, Jamie? That one, yeah. I mean, shut the fuck up. Someone stacked that, for sure. It's in a straight line. They're stacked on top of each other. They fit together. They're placed, at the same height.
But they're carved and transported.
Yeah, something was going on, right? So
That's probably enough.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'll cut that down a little bit. All right, we're rolling.
Was that wall, the Sage Wall, crafted, manufactured by people, or is it a natural formation? That's an interesting question, and scientists have some answers to that question. Now, Rogan is just looking at it superficially and saying, well, it looks constructed, therefore it 100%, without doubt, completely is constructed, and then he gives as evidence that these are clearly stones that are stacked on top of each other in a straight line. So, yes, superficially, you look at it, it's like, yeah, you would look at that and say, yeah, somebody stacked those stones on top of each other. However, if you see that picture at a proper scale, like something providing scale, you realize that some of those granite stones are massive. The biggest one would weigh 91 tons. And so then you're like, well, wait a minute, that's kind of big. I'm not aware of any created, manufactured walls with stones that big, let alone ancient ones. So now we're immediately getting into some red flags here. How were they lifting and maneuvering stones that long ago? But anyway, we could put that aside for now and just say, if we have two hypotheses, right? So Rogan would look at it and go, looks man-made, it's 100% man-made, shut the F up, don't even tell me anything else. Scientists would look at that wall and go, okay, let's answer the question. What are all the possible hypotheses here? Let's just consider two basic categories, constructed or natural formation. What would we expect to see for one versus the other? We could test these two hypotheses. So if we say, if this were a natural formation, so first of all, is there a process that could make this? Is there a natural process that can produce this kind of a structure? And the answer is yes. Right? If you have uplifting of magma that then cools, the granite will, when it cools, it will fracture in long straight lines. And then those fractures erode over millennia and millions of years. So it kind of produces what we're seeing there, this looks like stones are fitted together, but that's because it's one stone with cracks, right? And but by definition, if it's one solid piece of rock that was just cracked, it's going to look like they were perfectly fitted together, but they're not. It was one original slab of granite. It's straight, sure. The geological processes can lift it straight up out of the ground, and you can get these straight structures. We see these elsewhere in the world. Nothing unusual there. So yes, natural processes are completely able to produce this kind of structure. We could ask, is this in this area, this part of Montana, the Sage area, are there other similar rocks, other similar structures, other similar geological processes happening? And the answer is yes, they're all over the place. Rocks like these are all over the place with similar kind of cracked, formations, and that looks like, rocks piled up, but this one is just the one that looks the most like a wall, right? It's kind of straight for a couple hundred yards or so. If you think these rocks were piled on top of each other deliberately, then don't you have to think that they all were, or I guess maybe they were doing it to make it look like the rocks that were already there. But again, the simpler explanation is if those are natural formations, then this one could be a natural formation too. There's really a good solid piece of evidence, and this is the one that geologists use to say, yes, this was a natural formation. So granite has a structure to it, right? Not all granite is identically the same. There's mica in there and quartz and other impurities and other minerals, and that the exact mixture of those things and their grain size, etc., forms kind of like a fingerprint for that piece of granite. And if you look at it carefully, you could essentially say, yes, this granite is the exact same granite as this one over here, right? They have the same fingerprint, the same percentage of mica and quartz, the same granular size, etc. And so if this were a natural formation, you would expect that all of these rocks across the entire wall would have a continuous, seamless connection of this microstructure to or even macro structure, but just like the structure of the granite itself. It would all be the same, right? As if it were one solid piece of rock. If these rocks were brought here and assembled, you would not expect that. You would expect that different rocks would have slightly different signatures from them, and they might even be completely different, right? And in fact, like if you look at a place like Stonehenge, they can look at the rocks at Stonehenge and say, these rocks came from this quarry miles away. That rock was brought here from there, and we could tell because when we look at it under a microscope, right, we look at it carefully, we could match it. We could match the signature of this rock to that quarry over there. We do this all the time. We did that with the pyramids, for example. If you look at the Washington Monument, at some point there's a color change in the stone used to make the Washington Monument. Why is that? Because construction had to stop for the Civil War. And then by the time they started building it again, they were at a different section of the quarry and the rocks were slightly different and it has a slightly different color and you can see it. It wasn't a continuous quarrying of rocks. There was a discontinuity in there. Anyway, that's what you would be seeing if this were a constructed wall. But if it's natural formation, it should all be completely uniform. Same signature, same fingerprint, and that's what we see. So geologists, looking at it scientifically and knowing what they're talking about, have concluded this is absolutely a natural formation. We could look at it from the other side and say, is there any evidence that this is constructed? Are there any tool marks? No. Is there any evidence of quarrying or transportation? No. Any evidence that these rocks came from somewhere else other than where they are currently? No. Are there any artifacts in the area to indicate that there was occupation by people or by anybody in this area at the time? No. There's no evidence that this wall was constructed. There's no evidence of occupation here. we can't even imagine why they would have built it there. But then we could put that aside because people do things for weird reasons, whatever. But it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and not just from a modern perspective. Like there's no reason why people would be setting up shop there and would have invested that much effort into just putting a random wall up somewhere, right? So it's not in the middle of. Like this is a place where people were living and hunting, and there was water. Like there's no reason to think that people were living there. No artifacts of their existence there. So all of the evidence points to this being a natural formation. As strange as that might seem initially, just from a superficial look at it. Plus, also keep in mind, you're always seeing the sage wall from the same side, right? From the side that got uplifted and is now exposed as a wall. If you look at it from the other side, it doesn't look so much. It looks a lot more like a natural formation when you look at it from the other side. But we never are shown it from that side, right? It's the more impressive side is what you're going to see the pictures of. So from a scientific perspective, it's a natural formation. There's a lot of lines of evidence that lead us to that conclusion. And it looks like a wall, shut the F up approach doesn't really get you to the right answer.
All righty.
All right. That's it.
That's it.
We are
Any
done.
final questions, y'all, before we get on out?
Is it near any civilization? There were, in the, hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, there were Native Americans living in Montana, but not there, like not in that particular location, because again, it's like there's no reason why it wouldn't have been a good location to set up shop. It's not near a water supply, near hunting grounds or whatever. It really is like the middle of a mountain of jumbled rocks, Mm-hmm. So, and there's no evidence that anyone lived nearby. That's the other thing. Again, they would have had to have been there for a long time to build a wall of that size. And there would absolutely be evidence of occupation in the region, but there isn't any.
There you go. So Friday, are we doing a stream? I think potentially we will.
I think so.
I think so. Next Friday, the Friday after this Friday coming up, we will not. Mm-hmm. That is a busy weekend, just so people know. I think the next Wednesday we'll be here, right?
Next Wednesday.
Because that's like the Wednesday before
I guess
the wedding.
We can, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my daughter's getting married next weekend,
right.
So I'll be busy, but we could probably do some
stuff.
Maybe a little bit contracted. But it turns out I have to get another show in the can for the weekend, so
of course.
That's one of my windows to do it. We'll see how much I can get done before that.
Can't take things for granted.
Can't take things for granted, right.
Evan, get off of your burner account. Or Peter, stop. Anyway, another good stream. Yes, thank you very much. It's been good. I think we covered all the topics. If you find anything on TikTok or Instagram or any other weird stuff, either send it in or tag us, because I usually go through those first before or after I find other weird things that I'm perusing throughout the week. And then, and if you see anything, just like, the articles or something, you can send it to us on the website. Also, there is the Washington, D.C. extravaganza tickets are on sale. So feel free to
and there will be a private show that weekend too, but
That's
we're still nailing down the venue. So as soon as we get that done, we will put those tickets up as well.
And that's in December 7th,
December.
I think. Something like that. So it's whatever that weekend.
Early December, yeah.
Yeah, the private show will happen as well. Mini Minuteman collaboration when? We could reach out to them. See, I know he does some skeptical stuff, which is pretty cool. So we could talk about that. And I think that's it for this week. Unless anybody has other questions, we will see you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday.
More fun. All right.
Anybody know that reference, by the way? The See You Next Wednesday reference?
Wednesday. Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know.
There is a director who sneaks that phrase into all of his movies.
Really?
See if you can figure that out for next week.
Interesting. All
See
right.
you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday. That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. If Steven dresses as Santa Claus, I'm in. Yes. Okay. For December.
In December, maybe.
But definitely buy tickets for that to see if it happens.
Yes.
Okay?
That's the only way you'll ever find out.
And bring chocolate, Olivia. Okay. That's it. That's enough. End music. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yep.